To the next question, last episode we were talking about children, the difference between being at home, between being at school, and where they learn their behaviors and their actions from. You also kind of indirectly talked about helicopter parenting. So what about this term that we hear a lot now, bullying, and in terms of how it's being utilized by schools and parents and things of that nature?
Right. And I think, bullying, no doubt about it, that is a concern, and it could happen at school. We did an earlier segment on,
right.
What is exactly bullying, right? And I don't want to go into that whole detail. But, one thing I especially in preschool, pre-K, I just want to focus on early childhood today. And in early child, like preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, first, second grade, sometimes parents like, my child's getting bullied. And I get concerned about when people use that. Now, it's like, because you don't want a kid like, hey, are you getting bullied? I think you're getting bullied. And you don't want a kid at pre-K, it's like, I think I'm getting bullied. To a point that says, hey, this child might be, and I remember once I was talking to a child, I'm just going to throw out two names. It's like a regular name, so it's no one's official. And I remember a parent goes, hey, Amina's feeling like, Fatima doesn't want to play with her. And she hasn't played 1 or 2. I feel like she's getting bullied. Now no one can play with her. I was like, okay, let's talk to Amina. Hey, Amina, what happened? It's like, Fatima played with me on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday she didn't want to play with me. And she's like, you can't play. I want to play with some other friends. I don't want to play with you today. And then on Thursday, then I'm like, okay, but then, so Monday she played with you, and Tuesday she didn't play with you, Wednesday and then Thursday, but the week before, have you played with her? Yes. So I told the parents, this is not bullying, this is called social dynamics. Child needs to know that you can't completely control the other child, that the child has to always play with you. That child needs to realize sometimes they want space and they want to play with others, and it's okay. Because the other child might feel like, oh my God, she just wants everything. She's completely in control. Because what do you think of bullying is something like repeated acts,
right,
where you're showing aggressiveness, or you're showing power over other, right? Where you're psychologically and physically consistently affecting them. One day, you just said, I'm not playing with you. Child needs to understand it's okay. They're going to play against you. You need to learn how to play with others. So that aspect of idea of bullying and social dynamics is I really want to kind of pinpoint a little bit here, because I see a lot of times that oh my God, no one played with them at the park. I mean, there are so much bullies. Okay, so if he's new, I remember my child's I'm like, I need you guys to go and play, because everyone's like, well, why don't we structure? I remember parents why don't we structure even recess? But I'm like, sometimes you want kids, everything is structured. If they don't know how to be like, hey, go and play, ask, or go through, hey, can I go next? Can I have that? That's how they're going to learn skills. You remind them, you tell them, then you let them go out there and do it. Just like in coaching. Coach tells you to play. And they can tell you where to go. After a while, you just have to go and do it. They can't be like, stop. Hey, time out, referee. He didn't move. The guy, if he picked him right, he would have gotten through it, right? The play was set up this way. It doesn't happen in life, right? Just like an interview, they tell you some set questions, they can throw a curveball. So I think it's so important for us to realize that, hey, look, in social dynamics, we have to give them opportunities to learn how to figure things out, critical solving. And honestly, start young, preschool, kindergarten, no doubt about it. If you want to introduce them, hey, he wants to say hi to you. You can set the situation up. Or he didn't like the way, you could set it up and let them express themselves. Because if you can teach them how to express themselves, that will help out with later on when they have kids have issues or feelings. Because if you don't bottle it up and they're able to kind of express, that's going to be huge. So they're just kind of keeping that in mind. So I know I kind of took away, but I just wanted to kind of focus on just that social dynamics of with that bullying. I realize sometimes parents really have to understand. And then when you get to a girl, 5th grade, middle school, high school, someone's being down upon or doing disrespect, and that's when there's a concern or feel like they're isolated. They're looking at them, no doubt about it. I really get worried in early childhood when you start already putting that word in them. Then it's always it's a quick card.
Right. And they have that connection that this word, it's like a red light. It stops everything.
Everything
without even understanding what it means.
Exactly, and then you kind of have that, and also it becomes like a crutch.
So one example that you gave, let's summarize again, which is really solid. Preschool, kindergarten, they're in the playground. Maybe the issue is they're not communicating, right? So he's not, the kid, boy or girl is not communicating, hey, can I have next? Or can I play? They're just maybe staying off to the side, and they go home and they complain and they say, oh, such and such didn't play with me. So that's one. Two, what are some of the long-term effects? So for example, a kid who grows up using this card, using this word, and gets their way. what are some things that we see later on in life by the time they are in high school or maybe even older? Have you read any studies about this?
Yes. So one of the key factors is that if you see kids at a young age, 0 to 9, the development of the mind, and I believe the character, in Arabic, akhlaq, the character starts building there. When you have kids who are out there look, he's just a boy, you let it be. If you don't have them like learning how to cope, soothe themselves, understand. No, some kids, no doubt about their behaviors, they'll outgrow some of it. But you still have to reinforce, like, this is not right. If you're just like, he'll figure it out. You see those same children later on have arguing, anger issues. Can't, it's my way, the highway. No one likes me. You don't want to be my friend. Or they use physical opportunities to get what they want, or just kind of, get other people to support them and not kind of talk things through. And a lot of times those effects happens in marriage, right? They're like, oh my God, like, this is not, the kids forget, like, that's not your mom and dad who are going to be like, they're going to still love you, for the rest of their lives just because it's blood. To like, hey, even like siblings, you see like, they always let this kid, like, everyone go. This happens a lot, especially in the Muslim culture, if that boy, if it's the only boy, sometimes in some ethnic groups, a little bit more than ever. They can never do wrong. They're like, oh no, that's my, it's a boy.
Yeah.
At the day of judgment, that boy is also going to be questioned too. It's the same like the girl. I always tell people, like, hey, do you understand, like, the same rule applies? Like, if, like, something like, it was funny when people like in the swimming pool, like, oh my God, but there was boys and girls in that thing, so I told the girls not to. I'm like, yeah, my daddy also said the boys can't go. It's the same rule. So, right? Like at the end, I'm like, you can have it. If you're going to play the card,
right,
and saying, hey, and in the sense of, hey, you also want to make sure we're not exposing them, because at the end, your child's going to be asked the same way as your daughter's going to be asked too, right? So this idea of character and assessing and kind of talking through, but if a child is telling you stuff, then you want to listen to it too. You don't want to be like, well, toughen up. So there's the other one. Kind of like do everything you want. Then like when the child's like, man, I'm going through a tough time, like, hey, you have to give them the opportunity to communicate. But then at a certain time, they also have to build some resilience too. I'm like, well, oh my God, that, like at this practice, like a parents try out for a team. There's 60. Oh, can you just put them on the team somehow? How he's going to feel? Like, sister, there's 60 kids, 13 made it, he didn't make it. And if you tell him that he hasn't put any skill or tried, then you can't just force, how are you going to just have that? It's not like, you just can't guarantee, like, hey, I just want to do my A in classes. Come on. He's a good kid. No doubt about it. But you also have to realize that you have to put effort. And then sometimes even if you're not the greatest, but people recognize if you put effort and time and stuff, then have that. But if the child already knows, mom's always going to cover me, or dad's going to cover me, you're not helping them, because you always know someone's going to fix it. And then this idea of like, well, and things when it come flat in their face, because when they're preschool, kindergarten, things are always taken care for them. That's why even like it's funny in early childhood, elementary, where parents like, sometimes we're like, okay, we're gonna let you put let the kids put their bag in. Oh my God, but why it was so heavy for them? I'm like, they're gonna have to learn how to put things together. That'll help you later on. When COVID hit, all the kids who were always taken care of assignment, now in 5th, 6th grade, they can't get on the line by themselves.
Wow. They
don't know how to help because they don't know how to do it. Like, oh my God, I have to do work. And they're like, oh, that's what you just did. You just have now gave them a big crutch where they can't do anything because you were always taking care for them. They can't have an open computer. Oh my God, my mama does everything for me, right? I mean, that's why there's some habits of just kind of having, hey, you gotta do the dishes,
Make your bed.
Do your bed, like to me that's a teacher's accomplishment, right? They always say like, I was always bad as a young kid about this, but just getting up, putting my wife's amazing about this, like just taking care of that one thing. It's the first thing that you accomplish in the day. Like I was like, hey, when you come up, I'm like, look, if you woke up, you did wudu, you made your dua, you have them, you did 3, 4, 5 amazing accomplishments, because you can tell people like, check, I moved up.
That's what Goggins says, David Goggins says the first thing to do is.
David Goggins, yeah. I mean, the guy, the guy's, it's a mind game. And we have to start developing our kids into minds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us, right? All of us, like our own kids, everyone's got situations, and you're going to figure out, and each one you're going to have to manage differently. So some have to show the tough love, sometimes you're going to have to stop. But you want to do is, are you setting that child up if you know he's already soft, you're going to have to start building some of it up. Because you wait until 5th, 7th, 8th, 6th grade,
Becomes worse.
and it can get tough. Because we realize that it is going to, when you're in middle school, your hormones are, going through, you're changing, image, what people think of you, physical. Oh my God, she said this, or he thinks he's faster. Oh my God, I'm not there. All these are going through. And if you don't know how for them to slowly build and help develop to kind of compartmentalize some of these things, it can eat them up.
So it's funny, as you were talking, I remembered so many stories popped into my head about like people as they get older, and they're talking about their like rough or tougher upbringing, but then they're appreciative of it, right? Like, he was tough on me, but now I appreciate it. So it's interesting how, again, we don't want to go to another extreme where we're like beating the kids or depriving them of any pleasure, possible. But at the same time, that instilling grit, perseverance in the kid from an early age, you see that it pays dividends long term.
Most leaders, if you see presidents of the United States, even if you see a lot of prophets, they had struggles and tragedy when they were young. Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father was like, man, I'm throw you in the fire.
Wow.
Prophet sallallahu siblings passed away. Yusuf alayhi salam, his brothers trying to kill him. So there's challenges to have. That builds grit, and sometimes even I feel like, because now we tell kids even the idea of having them do service projects, like cleaning the thing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, no, there might be some thing that could get scratched. Okay, try do all the safety precautions, but they need to learn how to go help out others.
Sure.
You could now everyone can just, I'm just, but I give a donation. But even just having them like, hey guys, I want you to find something and read up about them, why we should give in Ramadan to this specific thing, right? Have that. That's one. But I'm like, but I think I need you to go and maybe go give food out. Go to specific. I saw like a family just go to Chicago Care and they brought their daughters to, like, okay, maybe some things maybe won't go all out in the open in some areas, might be safe. Okay, you can still get all the boxes ready in the car and pass it out, just to expose them to see what's going on, right? I think the most humbling experience for me was when my parents went back home. When they sent me back home at 14, India, Pakistan, where the water, hot water, can't drink the water. Then you have to refrigerate the water, but the electricity goes out, so you can't drink the water. The mosquitoes biting you. Your food is awesome, but gives you stomach issues. You go to the bathroom. The bathroom's like a hole in the wall with the geckos, the chippies up there, the spiders. Then you got to worry about the jinn inside there. And you're reading the dua. I'm like, I hated the thing. Then for one whole week, they sent me to the village, where I got picked up in a buffalo cart. And when we went, there was lanterns. And the bathroom, they said after Markham, we can't go. It's outside. They're like, hey, there's snakes and stuff, so the best you can't. Like, you have to hold it. I'm like, what? I've got to hold it. Wow. So I remember one time I had to go, and the guy had to he himself was like, man, Mom, this American kid, we got to do this for this guy, right? It was like ridiculous, and I hated it. But then, man, when I got back, I was like, now I know the appreciation for what I have, why my parents were saying we have to give to others, family, community. Wow. It's not about you, right? And then you help God's creation, Allah will help you, And I think those are really important for our kids to really see, struggle, feel,
It's interesting because you mentioned the example of, so there's a scholar that was here like 10, 12 years ago, and he was talking about charity. And he says our problem, this is again 12, 13 years ago, is that we're giving the money, but we're not connected to those who are receiving it. So we can just give it electronically, but there's a benefit of giving it on the ground, seeing the reality of the people. And then Eddie from the Dean Show, he did an interview very recently, and the brother was talking about going to Africa, right, for philanthropic work. And he was just talking about how, we think we know poverty and we see images, but he says until you get on the ground, he said, for example, one example was he was coming out of a restaurant, they just landed coming out of a restaurant, they had a bottle of water, and he had maybe like that much water left, right? So he says somebody approached him and he thought, okay, maybe the guy's going to ask for money. Yeah. He said, can I just have like whatever water you have left, right? And then they were talking about some of these individuals, they have to walk miles just to get water, and when they get the water, and he added the pictures into the show, he actually took pictures. It's not like the water we're accustomed to.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
It's brown tainted, dark brown tainted, hints of maybe sediment or whatever in it. And he was just talking about the how large the poverty is over there, and how even small, significant, what we may consider insignificant amounts of money go a long way. But I think there's definitely a benefit. And I have a similar story with India. I went there when I was 14 as well, and it opens your eyes. It opens your eyes when you see like that could have been very easily me, right?
Exactly.
Because you still have blood that's over there.
That's right.
But you're just the lucky guy who got to come over here because one person made a decision
So
to come over here.
And it's there. And then when you start seeing it, you see kids your same age running barefoot everywhere. And I'm like, man, my shoes, mom, I got scraped with all the dirt. Oh my God, there's poo of it. And just like, it becomes, and that's when you start realizing, all right, you know what? I have this opportunity, right? And then how do I maximize it? And I think we have to do that. And that's why I think when we don't give individuals to have some form of challenges, you're covering them, and then when some reality hits, like you just get punched so hard, you maybe never come back.
They're crushed.
And that's why we don't want to happen, right? You want to get jabs, right? You're bobbing and weaving, jab, jab, jab. You give some strikes, but you're fighting back against those challenges and struggles, and you keep throwing. And one day, you hopefully win. And for us, winning in life is, having a safe, a productive life of giving, supporting, and making life easy for them. But for us, is also there's a hereafter, right? So knowing those struggles are also bank account benefits for us in the hereafter, right? And then we change that thought process, and then like, okay, a kid went through it, let's have it, and then we need to help those development. So a lot of the parenting, what we do at a young age, is so huge, and it keeps going, right? And you'll see a lot of us, and we all have to be honest with ourselves. We all know our weaknesses and where it comes from. Sometimes it's something that parents told us and we still didn't listen. So sometimes maybe it's a bad habit that we did follow them that we shouldn't have followed from.